Some people seem to move through relationships effortlessly or easily, right? They don't have problems meeting people. They don't have problems getting into relationships. They don't have problems keeping relationships. They get engaged, they get married, and they have that Instagram worthy relationship life that so many of us want. And then some of us, transparency here, myself included, feel like relationships are so difficult. They feel so hard to get into, so hard to maintain, so hard to move on to the next level. Now, there's no hard and fast rule as to why this is. However, astrology always offers an answer. And whether you get into relationships easily or not is easily discernible through your natal chart. So in this video, I'm going to be discussing 5 characteristics or 5 natal chart placements that lend themselves to difficulties or challenges in relationships. All right. So if you want to know more, stick around. You definitely don't want to miss this. Hello, my loves. As always, I hope that this video finds you well and in excellent spirits. If you're new around here, hi, hello, and welcome. My name is Mel. I'm a professional astrologer and I'm the founder of Divine Feminine Works, where I help people unlock their divinity and discover their magic. And if you're not so new around here, welcome back. So today's video is about 5 placements that really speak to challenges in relationships. Okay, now I want to preface this video with a few ground rules. All right, because I personally love videos like this because I'm like, do I have this kind of placement? Do I not? Like, it's a great way to measure yourself. However, number one, this list is not exhaustive. Number two, it doesn't mean that if you have one of these placements that you're doomed when it comes to relationships. The whole point of this video isn't to say, well, you have this particular placement, so you suck when it comes to relationships. It's really about self-awareness. And when you have the self-awareness, you know what work you need to do. It's not to say you shouldn't get into relationships. Obviously, that would make no sense. It's more about, okay, I understand that me as a person, I may have difficulty with this. I may have difficulty with communication. I either work on my communication skills or I gravitate toward people who can fit into that communication paradigm that I naturally possess. So I don't want you to think that all hope is lost, especially if you have more than one of these. You're just like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to have a relationship. No, but understanding and knowledge is key because it helps you either change or adapt. So that is the spirit in which we are going into this video. All right. And just as a preface, if you really want to understand how you're designed relationally, especially with respect to what's going on in your life right now, if you're in a relationship and maybe it's not going the way that you want, or you've met, you've hit a wall, then definitely sign up for my signature natal chart experience, which is called the Blueprint. Now, this is not your ordinary natal chart reading. I have a specific framework that I use, and it's actually 3 readings in one. So, first, it is a progressed lunation reading, which basically allows you to understand what chapter of life you are in right now. Then it's a natal chart reading where we dissect your natal chart into the tiniest pieces so that you can definitely understand clearly how you are designed. And then finally, it's a transit reading where you can understand how the current transits are affecting your life in the moment. I love this framework because as great as it is to understand your natal chart, sort of giving it context by introducing time and the chapter of life that you're in, I find really helps people understand themselves better and helps them make better decisions moving forward. So if you're interested in that, the first step would be to book a 15-minute clarity call with me. We can talk more about this service, what it entails, and we can figure out if the service is even right for you. Or if you're ready to get the ball rolling, you're like, yes, that's me. I'm in a situation right now and I need some help. The link to just straight out book the blueprint will also be in the description box below. All right. So take advantage. People really love this. And I'm not saying that to get you to sign up or anything. People really have a wonderful experience with this, and the information is invaluable. So check those links out in the description box below. All right. So now that we've gotten all that out of the way, let's get into the specifics. I'll be checking my notes because as I get older in age, it's really difficult for me to just I can spit off the dome, right? But it's not going to be as polished and as structured. So let's get into it. Okay. Now, again, I want to preface if you have any of these, it's not the end of the world. You'll be fine. You just have to maybe recalibrate or sort of redirect or maybe just morph a little bit. No big deal. All right, number one, Venus square Saturn. Now, if you've ever watched any of my other videos before, I love when Venus and Saturn link up. Venus and Saturn can give staying power to relationships if they are harmoniously linked. But when they're in a hard position, such as square to each other, Venus square Saturn, this is when you have a lot of delays and challenges in relationships. It could feel like almost a tug of war, maybe between you and your partner and your needs. Okay. There's a fear of vulnerability. Love can be delayed. Okay. And I want to preface this by saying I'm not talking about synastry. Synastry is something different. I'm talking about you have these placements within your natal chart, just individually. So, Venus square Saturn, you could fear love. Love can come later in life, which for some people is a little uncomfortable. But your life could ultimately be filled with a lot of lessons concerning worth and commitment. And those can be really challenging because you may find situations or you may find yourself in relationships where your self worth is tested, where your self worth is obliterated. Commitment issues, including loyalty and trust, always come up for you. And that can make relationships be less than smooth sailing, right? It could mean that you're always on choppy seas and it's never really stable. However, once you gain the information, once you learn the lessons here, you will likely have a relationship that will stand the test of time. That's why I love Venus and Saturn together, because although it can be challenging, it's ultimately geared toward longevity. Okay. So keep that in mind. Next, we have Moon and Pluto aspects. So you could have the Moon conjunct Pluto, Moon square Pluto, Moon opposite Pluto. Even to a certain extent, Moon trine Pluto or Moon sextile Pluto. Whenever you put Pluto in the mix, it can be chaotic. It could also be very intense. And the moon is our emotional body, right? It is our emotions, how we feel safe emotionally. So, this could be an area for you, particularly emotions and emotional well being. When you have the moon in aspect to Pluto, it's like you're constantly experiencing emotional intensity, either from like you personally or in your relationships. There's also like chaos. There could be also power dynamics. This could lend itself to emotional manipulation, emotional projection. It's like you could have a relationship that's great on paper. You and this person are compatible, you and this person make sense, but there could be underlying resentment, there could be emotions that are out of control. It could just be emotionally turbulent. And that turbulence lends itself to a relationship, again, that's not smooth sailing, a relationship that feels like there's always, you're on an emotional roller coaster, right? Emotional regulation is going to be the key here. And getting to the truth of why you feel the way that you do, of what motivates your emotions, of what motivates your actions and decisions in relationships, can really help you understand this roller coaster so you can understand how your emotions are cyclical. Because again, we're talking about the moon here. So you may find that there is a certain pattern that your emotions take in your relationships. Understanding that pattern and the motivation and intention behind those patterns can really help mitigate the effects of this placement. So keep that in mind as well. Now, full transparency, this is one that I have and that I understand all too well. It's Venus in Scorpio or Venus in the eighth house. Okay, now Venus in Scorpio, it's very plutonic. And by plutonic, I mean intense. These kind of placements lend themselves to wanting all or nothing in a relationship. You literally want to merge with someone. You want your souls to unite. It's a very deep and substantive kind of feeling and kind of love in relationships. Now, imagine that you are a scuba diver and you are someone who's super comfortable diving deep into the depths of the ocean, playing with the fish and everything. Yet you keep meeting people who don't know how to swim, who only want to stay on the shore. who only want to get up to their knees in the water. It creates this imbalance in relationships where you constantly want to bring someone down to the depths of emotions and of love. And they're just like, yo, I can't handle that. It's too intense. And I've been there. Now, the key here is with any of these placements, I don't want you to think I shouldn't be this way. This isn't good. You need to own who the fuck you are. You need to own who you are in relationships. Now, can that require change? Absolutely. But don't automatically count yourself out because you have one of these, or even if you have another difficult placement in your natal chart. Like, you are who you are. And it's about finding the right person, not trying to force anybody into sort of your paradigm or into your program. But here, control, jealousy, manipulation, possessiveness, Venus in Scorpio or Venus in the eighth can really lend itself to that. And again, it's not like you have to force someone who doesn't know how to swim with you. Maybe there needs to be a compromise. You have to understand that these placements lend themselves to complete, it's like these are the type of placements that require you to lay everything out on the table. When you're in a relationship, I want to know what broke you. I want to know your childhood pain. I want to know that to understand you so I can love you better. But some people are like, I'm not even ready to go there. I'm not trying to talk about my childhood. That shit is in the past. I really don't want to go back there. Or your love is just so it your how you express and how you emote may require people to bear themselves to you. And some people just are not there. They don't have the capacity. They're not ready. But here's the thing with these two placements. Again, this is Venus in Scorpio or Venus in the eighth. You'll attract people. You have a sexiness and a magnetism to you that people are like, oh yeah. But then they realize that you're not a kiddie pool, that you are like the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. And they're like, yeah, fuck no. I need to go. Doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. It means you need to find someone who can scuba dive, or maybe you need to dial back the intensity until the time is right. Right? Understanding is the first step to either changing the situation or adapting. Okay. Next, number four, let's talk about heavy Saturn influence in the seventh house. So, this could mean you have Saturn in the seventh house. This could mean that you have Capricorn as your seventh house, Aquarius as your seventh house, because that would make Saturn your seventh house ruler. Now, this kind of speaks to the first one, which was Venus and Saturn square to each other, right? But heavy Saturn emphasis in your seventh house means that relationships are where you learn your life lessons. Relationships are literally the school of hard knocks for you. This could also signify delayed relationships. Everyone's getting married at 30. You may not get married till 45 or 50. And some people have no problem with that. Some people don't even want to get married at all. Another video for another day. But if you're someone who feels like you need to be on a timeline, Saturn doesn't give a fuck about your timeline sometimes. And that's not just to be mean. The universe is never trolling you. Certain lessons need to be learned. You, above all, know the value of commitment. Real commitment. Not Instagram matching pajamas, we flexing for the gram commitment. I'm talking about I have cancer and I'm sick and you stand by me. You lost your job, your business went under, and we make it. That's Saturn type shit. And when you have that as your seventh house, when Saturn emphasizes your seventh house prominently, you learn this over the long haul. But again, what I love about Saturn in relationships, it gives commitment and staying power. So if you're able to traverse those lessons, if you're able to understand what Saturn is really trying to do in your relationships and ultimately in your life, because remember, relationships are really just a reflection of us. And if you understand this, you will have a relationship that stands the test of time, where you don't have to worry about if something happens to you, your partner's just going to run for the hills, where you grow old together. Even if you got together at an older age, it can really be a beautiful placement if you allow it to be. And then finally, number five is Mars and Venus hard aspects. So this would be Mars square Venus, Mars conjunct Venus, Mars opposite Venus. Now, we've all heard the phrase men are from Mars, women are from Venus, right? It's like the battle of the sexes. Now, this particular pairing, right, whenever Mars is in aspect to Venus, it's very, it can be sexy. It can be very feminine, masculine energy, whether you're in a heterosexual relationship or a same-sex relationship, it doesn't matter. Um, there's that feminine, masculine energy, right? But when they're in hard aspect to each other, it's like the dichotomy between attraction and compatibility. Venus is arguably about attraction, but what I'm talking about here is like chemistry versus compatibility, and they are definitely two different things. Chemistry is great. Chemistry is what you feel in the beginning of a relationship, how you feel about each other. But compatibility is like, do our personalities, do our character traits actually go with each other or do they clash? And this particular placement, again, it would be Mars square Venus, Mars opposite Venus, Mars conjunct Venus, right? Compatibility and chemistry often butt heads. And this could be, so how this plays out in real life, this could be you have relationships where it's like it starts off great, but then there's always a problem. We're not getting along. What started off as this really hot and heavy, or we had this great attraction, or the chemistry was off the charts, but then long term, it's like I can't stand this person, or we just don't gel together, right? Remember, compatibility and chemistry are two different things. And you need to understand how you relate to those two different things. How do you show up when it comes to those things? And finding someone who could fit into that. And not just getting lost in the sauce when it comes to the beginning of the relationship with the good parts or the sexy parts, but really thinking about how exactly do I show up as a person in this relationship? How's this person showing up? And does it make sense? Right? When you understand that, you can adapt or you can find someone to meet you where you're at. Okay. And that's the whole point of these. Now, there are other placements in natal charts, right, that can speak to challenges in relationships. And if you want to know what they are and if you have them, definitely sign up for the blueprint. Okay. But it's about understanding where you're at so someone can meet you, or if you meet someone that you're willing to go halvesies on everything with, right? You can compromise, knowing that perhaps you know that you are an emotionally intense person, or perhaps you're someone who's great chemistry wise, but maybe not compatibility wise, right? Now, I do want to mention an honorable mention here. So this is honorable mention number 6, and that will be um difficult Mercury placements. Okay, so this could be Mercury in Sagittarius, Mercury in Pisces, or Mercury in hard aspects to like Pluto or even Venus to a certain extent. Mercury is sort of the underrated planet when it comes to relationships. We always think about Mercury's communication, but what is the sort of foundation of any relationship? Communication. And if your communication style is incompatible with someone else's, you could have the most chemistry in the world. You could be the best looking couple, but when it comes to actually relating to each other, it's difficult. Or maybe you don't know how to express yourself effectively, so your partner doesn't know how to nourish you or how to relate to you in a way that feels good to you, right? Or maybe you're someone who's all about expressing your emotions and you have no problem talking about how you feel, but you keep attracting people who don't want to talk about their emotions at all. So you may want to look at your chart and see if you have any difficult Mercury placements that could really speak to communication and perhaps the breakdown of communication in relationships. All right, my loves, that's pretty much all I've got for you for this video. And again, I want you to remember if you have any of these placements or any other difficult placements in your natal chart, it doesn't mean that you're doomed. It just means that you have to understand your baseline so that you can either find and really attract people who speak to that baseline, or if you find someone that you really love and you're willing to compromise, you know how and where to compromise. All right. And again, if you're looking to know more about yourself in depth, sign up for the blueprint. Either sign up for a clarity call or sign up for the blueprint outright. All right, my loves, I hope that this video was informative. If you got any questions or if you have any of these placements, let me know in the comment section below and what you really think about this video and perhaps any of those placements. All right, my loves, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video. Take care.